Hi guys, and welcome to something very special today. We have an interview with one of the lead mods with RTR Imperium Surrectum, Tony, who's here. Say hi, Tony, if you fancy.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Yeah, welcome to the stream, guys. Something different for me as well. It's going to be very interesting. And as we know, it's my favorite mod on the channel. And it's an absolutely amazing mod. And if you haven't been keeping up, there's some huge updates coming. So we're going to be talking about all that throughout the interview today. And I can't wait. It's really going to be fun. So as an intro to Tony, if you wouldn't mind giving an introduction to yourself and to the mod and what you do with the mod, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people know me as Tone from the Total War sort of forum and from Discord. I was one of the key guys behind the Roma Surrectum 2. I joined back in 2007 when the mod was really still quite young. Worked a lot on the models and texturing and map and battle map environments and all kinds of stuff like that. Till about 2013. Then joined the RTR Imperium Surrectum team last year when the Rome Remastered was announced, and been working on it ever since.
Awesome.
My role in the team is basically as the sort of lead artist. I bring a lot of the concepts together, work with the historians to sort of translate that into their sort of historical artifacts and stuff like that into models and textures, and then work closely with the other guys in the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just while you do answer the next question, I'm just going to slightly change the stream. There is a slight internet issue that is on my end, not yours. But if you wouldn't mind giving an intro to the mod, that'd be amazing, and what it's trying to bring to the community and the new update. Really, what's going on with the new update? That'd be amazing.
Sure thing. Yeah, I mean, so the RTR Imperium Surrectum, from the name, it's basically bringing together two of the big mods back from the original game. So that's Rome Total Realism and Roma Surrectum. So there's members of both teams involved and a whole stack of new members as well. The aim is to bring a balance of sort of historical accuracy and gameplay. So to provide ideally that sort of perfect balance between the two. There's a lot of immersion. We're working on a lot of mechanics at the moment that we probably bring into the next release after this one. And basically, yeah, it's a total overhaul of the whole game. So textures, map. There's a huge new map coming in. A lot of new units, a lot of new factions. But yeah, really trying to bring a lot of excitement to the whole remastered game, and really make it look like something completely new, completely different. Upgrade the graphics, upgrade the sort of mechanics in the game, and give players a really great experience.
And
I think one of the things with some of these sort of more historical mods is actually people learn a lot of history through them. And so it's a great opportunity to
yeah,
learn stuff. And we've had people going on from playing the game into wanting to study history and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I genuinely can confirm that that's true because I pretty much have learned most of the history that I know through games, not just Total War games, but plenty of historical games. It's 100% true. But yeah, as you say, the new map is absolutely huge, isn't it? It's fantastic. It's beautiful. There's been a few videos coming out on it, and yeah, so that's the main focus for this new update, isn't it? That brand new map, the polished map.
Yeah, so there's two main focuses really. One is the map, the massive map. I mean, Jorolaf has just done an incredible job on bringing that into reality, and it's just insanely detailed, insanely huge. And then yeah, the other main focus is new factions and new units. So we've got a whole we've just been pumping out a whole massive amount of Hellenistic factions and Hellenistic units, working really closely with the team on that.
Yeah, that I like some of the new units look absolutely stunning as well. Is that and that's your main role on the mod as well, isn't it? The creation of the new units. And
Yeah, so that's my main role. It's been very much a team effort. So we've got a couple of really great 3D modelers, Grimbold and Ace Snake, both of whom joined the team within the last year. They're doing amazing stuff like helmets, tunic, sort of high resolution tunics that then get translated into some really detailed folds and kind of clothing
yeah,
textures and so on. So we've had those, and then there's a bunch of other guys who are really sort of doing a lot of the grunt work of producing line authorities. One of the new guys has probably created around 400 line of thorax textures. Basically my role is to sort of kind of coordinate, set up the templates to help people work in a streamlined way,
yeah.
and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I saw a lot on that on the Discord, which is the first link in the description down below for anyone who's not joined the Discord. Join the Discord, and you'll get all the developer updates and everything to do with the mod. But I saw that on the Discord, the sort of what do you call it? I'm trying to think of the word. The sort of modular way that you make the units and make the textures. You've got so many different ones for each unit, that modular system seems to work really well for you guys.
Yeah, it's working a real treat. So it basically means that we've got a lot of different variety without having to kind of reinvent the wheel each time. I guess from my experience of doing the work on Roma Surrectum too, I was a bit green back then. It was my
Yeah,
first sort of foray into graphics, and I didn't really have much of an idea of what I was doing. So there's a lot of reinventing of the wheel, and you'd have textures that where the UV map, basically how the model translates to the texture, or how
yeah,
the texture actually kind of gets mapped to the model. And that, they were out by maybe 5 pixels between different units, so that made for a lot of extra work, just changing little bits each time.
yeah,
And so one of the things that I thought, I spent probably 3 months. I mean, Ahal, who's the kind of head of the mod, um, kind of laughed at me because I spent 3 months basically creating one unit.
yeah.
But it was all the kind of background work of setting up templates, setting up this modular design, so that once we hit the kind of green light, we could then start pumping stuff out much more quickly.
Yeah, cool. And you can really see the sort of labour of love that's gone into all those units. It's pretty stunning, and the little details, like you just spoke about before, the little details are kind of the key difference that I see with a lot of other mods. That, like, for example, when I was looking at the new Epirus units on the new video I've just released on the Epirus roster. Like the tiny little details on the linothorax, like the tiny little threads of the bows on the shoulder straps, and the threads in the skirt. I can't remember what the skirt's called. And like the little details of the texture on the arms of of each different person. It's just those tiny details kind of together make the units look so unique and feel so unique. There's no copy and paste units anymore. They're all unique, all different. It's pretty stunning, honestly, to look at.
Cool. Glad you like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and it's
mean,
quite
yeah,
like yeah. I guess yeah. I love detail, so
yeah.
yeah, it's really good to see that stuff is being appreciated.
Yes, I think that's honestly like one of the huge differences, because each small detail adds up to making each unit, each person in a whole unit look completely different, or well, not completely different. They're still the same style, aren't they? But looking different, has that variation. It's yeah, it is fantastic to see. It is fantastic to see. It's stunning. Um, but I have a little question. I've got a couple of questions to ask that I was told to ask you. So please don't murder me if if they're inappropriate.
Sure
Uh,
thing.
but the first one was, why are you called the Modfather? I don't, there must be a story behind this, but
Uh, yeah, I mean it's that's kind of Mosca Flacker, who's one of the
yeah,
guys on the team. I think he came up with that idea. It's probably because I'm actually quite old.
All right.
So I'm old enough to be his father, basically. Um, so I think that's probably how that came about. And yeah, so they've got this joke, this running joke, and anytime I say stuff, there's this whole thing about kiss the ring, which is
Fantastic.
I must be obeyed sort of thing. So yeah, it's a running joke in the team.
So it's kind of a backhanded compliment, really. That's where it's come from.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. He also asked who the wizard is. But I don't know whether that's also inappropriate or not. But yeah.
No, the wizard is Jorlaf because
Ah,
he
right.
knows lots of stuff about lots of things and
Yeah.
kind of produces magic like the map, for example.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the new rosters that are coming in with version 5. And we've already seen
Yeah.
the Seleucids, Epirus, and the Antigonids. And I
Yeah.
believe there's a few more new rosters coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we're hoping that we'll be able to preview what else have we got left? Bactria,
Awesome.
the Ptolemaic faction,
Yeah.
Kyrene, Pergamon, and the Hellenistic units for Pontus.
Ah, class. That is brilliant. So it's been a very heavily focused on the Hellenic factions, hasn't it, for this particular update? Which is
Yeah, it has. Yeah. And just to add to that, we've also done quite a lot of the basic units for a lot of the other Greek
yeah,
factions. So, factions like Athens, Aetolia, Syracuse, and so on. A lot of their basic units have been done, and we'll spend the next development cycle working
yeah.
on, I guess, the more advanced units for those.
Yeah, cool. That's also. And honestly, as I say, I've had a look at three of the unit rosters in full, and they're fantastic. And spoiler to everyone out there, the Seleucids, mwah, very strong, very strong. I can confirm, strong unit roster with the Seleucids. Something you would expect with the Seleucids, though, I'd say. But the addition of there's a large amount of AOR units for a lot of factions as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why you've probably gone for that method of AOR units rather than just mercenaries, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, probably not too much about that because I think it's still a little bit up in the air as to how that's going to work in the
Yeah,
future. It's not something we kind of went for AOR, then I think we've kind of, for this next development cycle, we are just kind of contracting things a little bit just so that we can focus on some of the basic mechanics,
yeah,
and then we'll expand some of that up in the future. So really, this particular release is focused on map, new factions, and getting some of the basics right, and then we get into more complicated buildings and mechanics in the next development release.
yeah. Cool. That's awesome. So with the new release, I believe the government system's been removed just for the new version 5, but it's going to be implemented later on with some more additions, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, we just, I think we possibly underestimated the amount of work that the new map would be.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us realised quite what a kind of giant it would be. And also with the new units rosters, I mean, it's just been a humongous amount of work. And so we've just had to kind of keep the scope a little bit tighter on some of the other
Yeah.
elements of the game for this release.
I mean, that makes
But yeah,
perfect. Sorry, go on.
yeah, just say that there's the full intention to work on some really good mechanics for the next release.
Yeah.
Uh,
Awesome.
yeah, and the one after that. So yeah, we've kind of got a plan for how we want things to develop, and we're very much into not just being about the graphics, but also about
Yeah.
the gameplay as well.
Yeah, definitely. So just for everyone watching, guys, I've got the map, the size of the map on the screen right now in comparison to Vanilla and Mundus Magnus, and just look how big it is. It's absolutely huge. It's awesome. It really is awesome. It's a massive map spanning all the way, as you know, from the tip of North Africa across to into the into Pakistan region, all the way up to Denmark and Scandinavia. It's pretty expansive, but there's a size comparison for everyone just to see how ginormous this new map is. It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I was a little bit skeptical about how it would work in the game. I was kept going to the guys, I'm not sure this is going to work, but I think they've been proved right, and actually the end turn times aren't too bad.
Yeah, cool. That's great. There has been a couple of questions on the a couple of videos that I've released about the end turn times and about that sort of area of the game. Obviously, I'm not too impacted because my computer's relatively strong, but it seems streamlined and has like the Rome remaster allowed you to streamline a lot of things like that, like the end turns, like
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, go on.
yeah, it has. I mean, yeah. So when when I was involved in Roma Surrectum, I did quite a lot of the scripting for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm quite familiar with some of the scripting challenges that we had back then. One of the things that the Feral team have been really great with is working with the modders very closely and listening to what their requirements are. And so there are certain, there's some really good things they brought in that change, a few thousand or even tens of thousands of lines of code into maybe a couple of dozen.
Yeah.
There's one particular thing called for each, which basically means that you can do it for each settlement, for each faction. You don't have to rewrite that bit of code for every single named faction, every single named settlement, which you can imagine with 900 settlements would get, it'd just be this massive, massive piece of code.
Yeah.
So that's been, that really helps streamline a lot of the work for us as modders. That one thing I think has just made life really, really quite pleasant.
Yeah, and that was one of the big, for me personally, big selling points of Rome Remastered itself was the fact that it was going to make modding so much more accessible, and not just accessible for you guys, accessible for people like me who want to play the game. It's so much easier nowadays to just subscribe to something on the Steam Workshop rather than having to go through the process of ModDB, downloading it, extracting files, all that sort of system that you had for the older games. But that edition of Rome Remastered just means it's so much more accessible for you guys and for us, which I think is just brilliant.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I think Edwin, who's one of the guys been working with at Feral really closely, he was a modder himself, and loves the Total War games, and he's just been a real pleasure to work with.
Oh, cool! That's awesome. So, how closely do you guys work with Feral then? Because that's new information to my ears, anyway. How closely you guys are working with Feral to get these mods out.
Yeah, so they've been really supportive. We had access early on to a sort of development version of it, just at the point that they released it initially.
Yeah.
So we were able to release a version of the mod the day that Remastered was released. And then they listened to a whole stack of modders. We worked with them quite closely, and kind of put our development requests forward, and they listened. We kind of voted on those, and it implemented as many as they could, which was actually most of the stuff that we asked for.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's great.
So they've really listened. In other words.
That's great to hear, and I'm not going to bash on CA too much, but it's nice to hear a bit of a change in that department anyway. But yeah, that is also. I honestly, that's new information to my ears as well. How closely Feral have worked with you guys, and I think that's really indicative of how Feral have wanted to build the game in the first place. I guess they wanted this mod interaction.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, it was very much about unlocking all of the previous limits.
Yeah, that is really good. As I say at the start, there was a genuine a lot of skepticism about Rome Remastered from a lot of people, including myself. And now I think it's just like that skepticism has been completely crushed with mods like yourselves, and like just seeing the different. So obviously, I don't want to promote other mods on this stream while I'm interviewing you about Rome RTR Imperium Surrectum, but like you'd see the breadth of different mods. There's mods from anime to Lord of the Rings to hyper realistic mods like yourselves. Like it's the breadth that is allowed is kind of on a different level from a lot of the times from a lot of the other games we've seen with CA.
Yeah, and yeah, it's fine to mention those other mods because we're all part of the modding scene together, and we kind of work quite closely with some of those guys and support each other and so on, and learn from each other, which I think is one of the great things about it. But yeah, it's it's just really good to have all of those limits removed.
I can completely imagine. I can imagine. So shall we move on to sort of the roadmap of going forward? Obviously, if you wouldn't mind telling the people when when the release date for, or I know there's not a specific date, but when you're hoping to release version 0.5.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty public about it. We're aiming to release 0.5 on the 30th of September.
Yep.
So that's just in 2 weeks.
Oh, brilliant. And obviously we've gone over what's coming with that. So it's coming the new big map and the new rosters and the new 18 new factions, which is just crazy. That's another 18 factions you guys are going to be building units for. So you're in there for the long haul. But in terms of the time scales for the new release, after the new release, how long are you expecting it to be before you start implementing those government specific buildings, etc., and the new rosters for a lot of those new factions?
Yeah, so the next release is going to be focused on fleshing out the remaining Greek factions. Then after that, it's on to some other factions. I probably can't say at the moment what those will be, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, just I guess to add that this development cycle, which has been 6 months, has been ultra long, and it's actually been pretty challenging to sustain the sort of the pace for that length of time. We've basically said we're never going to do that again. Have a development cycle that long. So I'm not going to say exactly when the next one will be out, but it will be out a lot sooner than this one was.
Okay. Ah, cool. Awesome. So will that be, I don't know whether this is the specific term in terms of the right term to use, but will that be a hard update or a soft update? What I mean by that, a hard update where it removes all your save files, a soft update where it just updates something that allows you to keep your save files?
Yeah, I think it'll be, both the next releases will be big updates, so they'll be, they'll basically be sort of game breaking.
Yeah.
What people can do is make a copy of the downloaded mod if they want to keep playing.
Yeah.
So that's something that we'll provide detailed instructions on how to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, cool. So that's the next focus is fleshing out the rest of the Hellenic factions. That's really cool. And I heard you have more factions planned for the future. You don't have to reveal which ones, but is that true that you got more planned for the future as well?
Yeah. We haven't come to the end of factions yet, but yeah, we were going to implement some in this next development cycle, but just thought actually we need to focus on mechanics and gameplay and getting some of that stuff right.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. I think for me personally, the sort of, it sounds like a subtle thing, but one of my favorite things about the whole mod is that even when you're the largest country on the planet, right? The largest nation, strongest nation, richest nation, most population, there's still a lot of challenge. There's still a lot of challenge that remains. Like in vanilla, like if you've played Rome Total War for more than 50 hours, you should be able to, well, not should, but most people will be able to play on very hard on vanilla and become the best nation by 50 turns, and then it's a breeze. But with this, it's that challenge after you become the hardest nation, it's still very strongly there. Like, and that subtle difference really makes a huge difference in the longevity of the campaign, I would say. So how have you managed to get that to the point where there's still challenge, even though you might have 10 full stacks and 100,000 coins in the bank?
I think there's probably a number of elements to that. One is making sure that the economy doesn't snowball. So we put in some anti-snowballing mechanisms, which basically means, to a certain extent, the bigger you expand, the harder your economy gets, or at least that's the aim. So we'll keep working on that and refining that as time goes by. The other thing is making sure that the AI is sufficiently strong. So we put in a few things like allowing the AI to recruit one tier higher than the player, just because they're really dumb. Um, they don't build as efficiently as the player does. They don't recruit units as efficiently, and they don't play battles as efficiently. So you've basically got to make up a little bit for the dumbness of the AI.
Yeah,
And so we've given them a better economy and a better capability of recruiting units. So you're not always up against, I think in vanilla, quite often what you found is that you're up against low tier units, and they just keep pumping low tier units out.
yeah,
And what you want to be up against is a mix of units similar to what you'd want in your own army. Yeah, I guess that goes back to some of the mechanics that we had in the original game in RTR and Roma Surrectum. In Roma Surrectum, we had basically a mod folder for each individual faction, which basically meant we could tailor the recruitment and the economy to the individual faction that you're playing, and therefore tailor the AI recruitment and economy against the player.
yeah. Cool. That makes perfect
With
sense.
Yeah, again, with some of the things that Feral have brought in, like some things like is player, is not player code into the scripting, it means that you can very easily not have to do individual mods for each faction. So you can have that sort of disparity between what the player can do and the AI can do much more easily.
Yeah, cool. That makes a lot of sense. Is there any? So, how much work have you done on the AI on top of the vanilla? Have you done a lot of work on the AI as well? Because it definitely does seem different. Obviously, it's on a different map. It's with different units and different factions, but it definitely does seem different, and different for the better. Seems a lot better than the vanilla anyway.
Yeah, I mean, AI is a funny term, isn't it?
Yeah,
Kind of what we do, what we're doing is basically making the AI work more effectively by giving it a better economy, making sure it doesn't run out of money, making sure it doesn't run out of population, giving it a slight leg up, giving it some very specific victory conditions so that it goes in directions that we'd like it to, ideally. Um, so that all of those things are in effect they're sort of elements of the AI because they basically determine how the enemy is going to behave.
yeah, cool. That makes sense again. Um, and I was just going to ask the AI benefits. Can you go into the specifics of that? Because it's definitely something that's always a hot topic when you're playing a game. I mean, it's especially hot for sort of paradox games, that sort of thing. But I know, for example, Divide and Conquer, another mod for a classic Total War game, they have a set. The only cheat that the AI gets, I believe, apart from the Doom stacks that come when you take their last couple of settlements, is that the monetary situation they can never go negative. They always have 1,000 a turn. So can you go into any of the specifics in terms of like the AI gets this percentage extra, or is there a hard limit on the amount of money that they can have, etc. Um, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember because I wrote quite a lot of the script for it um, back when we first released, or maybe one of the sort of subsequent releases after that.
Yeah,
And things have probably changed a little bit since then. But basically, there's a couple of sort of core mechanics. One is that the capitals of the AI factions get a financial bonus.
Yeah.
We've got, I think, certainly was something in place that if they went below a certain number of settlements, certain number of regions that they own, they get an income boost.
Yeah.
And then there's also a sort of anti, or at least there was, and I think we were going to bring it back in, a sort of anti-snowballing thing, which basically means if they expand too much, they also get a sort of constriction. They lose their core income.
Okay.
So it basically means that what we're trying to do is keep, in effect, keep factions from dying, but also keep them from expanding too much.
Yeah.
So that the player is up against a more interesting variety. There's no fun in just the AI taking over half the map, and you only end up fighting against one faction.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what we're trying to do is keep a lot of different factions alive to keep it interesting for the player. But I think, there's certainly that core income bit in their capitals, but also some stuff that either caps their income or supports them.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense. Again, I keep repeating that. I repeat certain phrases and words a lot. Once I've said it once, I'll repeat it again. But the one thing I was going to ask, so therefore, is there the AI can go negative in money? Is that correct?
Let me just have a little look. No, they can't.
Okay. So
There's basically there's a little add money. Yeah, there's an add money script for each faction in the world,
yeah.
which basically gives them 20k if their settlement count goes below 4.
Yeah.
So basically, that stops them from going negative.
Okay, cool. So if they're running too many troops for the amount of money they're making, it will just stop at 0, and then I guess just stop at 0 for a few turns until they make money again, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's sort of stopping them from getting too big.
Yeah.
So we've run, certainly when we've released the previous release of it, there's a lot of AI campaigns, and we're going to be running a stack over the next couple of weeks before we release this one, just to look at the economies, make sure that some of that stuff is working as it should.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. And like it's just interesting. That was less interviewing me. That was more curious player me, because just knowing how the AI works is always very interesting and quite important a lot of the time in Total War games and in any sort of strategy game you play. But that's great because, as I say, the AI definitely seems different. It seems more powerful. It seems more aggressive. It seems like it does a lot more attacking you rather than, especially when you're at war. Because I've been in wars in vanilla where I've been in a war and they won't attack at all because my armies are too strong. But in the mod, it seems like they'll attack quite often, which is great because then you're fending off defensive battles, trying to stop them taking a territory, which is awesome. But yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, we're just trying to create a good level of challenge for the player, and stop it just being a walkover.
Yeah. So on the difficulty as well. So I believe on vanilla, on hard, the AI gets a +3 bonus to attack, right? Is it a +3? And then very hard, it's +5. Does that work exactly the same way in the mod, or is that slightly tweaked?
Yeah. So whatever those numbers are, I can't remember exactly what they are, but those are basically hard coded.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Well, we've talked about the AI a lot. So let's have a look. Let's have a couple of fun questions. I was going to ask you a couple of fun questions. Probably should have done it at the start, but we're going to do it anyway. So, what's your particularly favorite faction that you like playing as?
Yeah, I mean that's a joke. I can't remember the last time that I've played, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was probably back in the original days, just after we released one of the Roma Surrectum things, so probably back in about 2013.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's probably the last time I played Rome Total War.
Really?
Uh, just yeah, I've just been too busy modding and doing units. I mean, I'll play the occasional battle,
Yeah,
um,
but
just to
campaign
kind of
wise.
test units and that kind of thing. But yeah, I've not. I think like a lot of us modders, we just end up developing and not actually playing.
Yeah, genuinely serving the
So
community.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
We sometimes wonder why we're doing it, but yeah, it's all it's all fun. So
brilliant.
I think otherwise, so back in the days, I really enjoyed playing. Obviously, Rome. Yeah, Rome was one of my
Yeah.
favourites. Beyond that, Bosporan,
All right.
the
Cool.
Bosporan Kingdom, and Dacia.
Yep.
Just because I love the kind of those kind of units that they get, particularly the Dacians with their falxes,
Yeah.
their rompers and
Mm.
falxes and whatever. The historians will correct me on that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really enjoyed. I enjoyed them visually, creating them and working on those. So it's kind of good to see some of that stuff come to life. Bosporan Kingdom, really great fun. That sort of mix of a little bit of Hellenistic and steppe and barbarian.
Yeah.
So they were, yeah, a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And I can tell you. So little tip for everyone out there: if you are in the Thracian up to the Bosporan region, and you have Rompir or you have mercenary Falcon available, get those guys in your army as quick as possible. I just played an episode of the Sparta campaign where I have a mercenary army protecting against the Bosporans, and it's pretty much full of Falksmen and Romphair infantry. And pretty much I ran them across a river, attacked the enemy,
Yeah,
and everyone routed. They all, as in the enemy, they all routed. They were so scared of these guys. So, little tip for everyone out there: get some of them in your army, and you'll be absolutely frightening the pants off all your enemies.
yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you what was your favorite unit that you've created, or what? I guess you enjoyed the Romper and the Falksman, it seems, but what was the favorite unit you created, or the unit that kind of means the most to you as a unit slash probably person in a unit?
Yeah, good question. I think for RTR Imperium Surrectum, probably one of the Royal Peltas units,
Cool.
just because yeah, there's a lot that goes into them in terms of texturing, in terms of modeling, in terms of
Yeah.
shield elements. Yeah, so probably one of those guys. I love the work that Grimbold did on a lot of the different helmets. So it's been really fun bringing that stuff together. There's a modder called El Santo Padre
Okay.
who basically produced the first sort of shoulder pad and pteryges. That's the flaps at the bottom of the line of thorax. So he produced the first one for me. And then basically what I've done is create a whole stack of different variants on those, different model shapes and so on. So we've got different length pteryges, we've got thin
Yeah.
ones, thick ones. So we've got 8 different pteryges varieties. So it's kind of bringing all that stuff together, putting in things like the stitching detail, the scale armor,
Yeah.
um, the shield patterns. All of that has been a lot of fun. That was, as I said, the first 3 months of the year was basically creating the first of those units and a few variants on that, to enable some of the other guys to start sort of padding out and mass producing.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So onto similar to the 2 questions ago about your favorite faction. Do you have a favorite faction? Do you have a favorite unit roster then at the minute, or do you love all your creations equally?
All my babies, yeah.
Yeah.
um, oh, good question. I think, Yeah, I haven't thought about this. Probably the Seleucids at the moment in terms of unit roster, because they get all the stuff that the Macedonians get, but
Yeah,
then they get the cataphracts and the scythe chariots as well.
yeah.
So yeah, probably them.
Yeah, I mean
Probably
it's
them.
my favourite, so good choice. But yeah, those scythe chariots, Jesus, they can do some damage. Playing with them yesterday, and or was it today? Can't remember. Today or yesterday. All the days are rolling into one. But yeah, they did some serious damage, especially against cavalry. It seemed very good against cavalry.
Yeah, they are very good against cavalry. They're less good, once you get bogged down in infantry. I mean, obviously, particularly against sort of pikes and spears and so on,
Mm,
they're less good. So you don't want to keep them stuck fighting infantry. Yeah, they'll basically mow through cavalry like
yeah.
butter. Yeah.
I think they mowed down the Antigonid general in about 3 seconds flat. They they just ran through them and killed them all, and I was like,
Oh,
oh my
yeah,
days,
painful.
yeah. It was pretty good
Yeah.
to watch. I'm not gonna lie, and my voice is very excited on the video. So, um, but similar to that, a question specifically about the unit rosters and the unit rosters for the campaign. Was there a so there isn't really a militia unit, I would say, with your rosters, is there? There's not really any throwaway units like the peasants in vanilla, say, or the town militia. Was that a specific choice that you made not to include any militia units, or was that sort of a philosophy that you have not to have militia units in the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've got a couple of historians, in fact, more than a couple of historians. We've got Mausolus, we've got um, Jorolaf, who's also done a lot of the Eastern stuff. We've got Rex and various other people. Some of these guys are university professors
Yeah,
um, who basically lecture in ancient history. We've had a lot of input from Mausolus, particularly on the Hellenistic factions. He's been very specific about what units we should have, which factions should have which units, and interesting, militia don't really feature on that.
yeah. That's a historical choice then about that.
Yeah,
Pretty much these armies in ancient times, you were a soldier or you weren't. There wasn't really a sort of a militia force.
yeah. I mean that seems to be the case, and obviously, they can recruit some local units, and as I
Yeah,
said, we'll be expanding out on the AOR stuff in the future.
yeah, cool. Oh, that's
What we've got now is their sort of core rosters.
yeah, cool. So that's really interesting about the militia there, because obviously in the base game you just use peasants to just put in cities, but now you've got to think about who you're going to put in a city, what units you're going to put in a city. Obviously there are some weaker units, but someone, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Moscow Flaka, said to me about the militia units, how they wanted every unit to be able to at least fight in a battle and not run away straight away like a peasant would in vanilla. So how you guys wanted sort of every unit to at least be able to hold the line for a little bit before it starts completely fleeing, or one morale shock and they're gone, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the frustrate. I mean, I think most of us who've played the game for a little while and have played vanilla at some point, you kind of get a little bit frustrated that the battles are too easy. You basically charge in your cavalry and
Yeah,
everything routes in one go, and the battles last 5 minutes if you're
yeah,
lucky. Whereas a lot of the mods for the original game, Roma Surrectum, RTR, EB, they basically had longer battles, which make for a lot more fun,
yeah,
and you can kind of think a bit more strategically, um, and work on that basis. So very much the case with the unit stats that we've put together for this.
yeah. Cool. Yeah, awesome. So, following on from that question about battles, is there any plan with obviously the new mod, loads of cities, stunning new, new map, loads of cities, stunning map, fantastic map. Are there any sort of plan? I've had a couple of comments on a couple of videos about whether there's a plan or whether there's a system to try and make them more land battles, rather, because obviously with a map with so many cities, it looks like you'll be doing a few siege battles here and there. So is there a plan to kind of increase the likelihood of having a land battle rather than just going from city to city and raising them, or whatever you want to do with the city?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Again, it's something that we've talked about quite a lot as a team as a potential downside of having so many settlements. I think we're going to be really open to feedback, and I mean, so far talking with a lot of the beta testers, that the sense is that there aren't too many long sieges, and people have been reasonably happy with the sort of balance. But I think if there's a lot of feedback from players of saying actually it's just a siege fest, then we'll certainly look at that as one of the mechanics in the next release.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Sorry, go on.
No, that's basically everything. So I think we're just open to feedback, and we'll listen to what people are saying.
Yeah, cool, awesome. So I think we'll come on to sort of a final question before I open the questions to the audience, and I've got a couple of questions in the chat already, so we'll move on to that after this final question. It's more of an idealistic one. So in your ideal world, you've completed everything, and RTR Imperium Surrectum's finished, what will it look like?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think fully fleshed out factions, more than we've got at the moment. Some really good immersive mechanics that basically means that every faction is unique. It's got its sort of challenges. Ultimately, with some really nice sort of mechanisms with rebellions, particularly for factions like the Romans, obviously. The Seleucids potentially having that sort of challenge of holding your empire basically together. What else? Some other sort of it'd be nice to get the AI in the battles a bit better than it is. It'd be really good to get the AOR system working well. What else? It would still be nice to improve the look of the battles. So some of the sort of environment stuff there. Lots of different elements, and I think it's just trying to work out which of those are the first priority. But I think certainly for the next release, it's all about improving mechanics.
Yeah. Oh, cool, awesome, great answer. Sounds amazing, and hopefully, I mean, the mod is amazing already. Like any improvements that come to it, it's a bonus. But so I think for the last, so you've only got 10 minutes left, haven't you? So for the last 10 minutes, we'll open questions to the floor, I guess, to the chat, and I'll go through a few of the questions that have already been asked, and then if
I think you were wanting to. Yeah, were you wanting for me to preview a couple of units? Or
that would be awesome if you can. That would be amazing. Yeah, that would be fantastic. So, scrap the questions for now. We can look at a couple of units. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. So, you want to have a look at my screen?
Yeah, I'll pop it on the big screen.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Right. So I don't know whether you can see this now.
Yep, you can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is basically one of the Seleucid silver shield spearmen.
Oh, cool.
So just kind of, I think we've got a preview of those that's out, haven't we? In fact, I think you've got a video of those. So just kind of just showing a close up in Blender, so you can see all the shield details. You can see the scale on the shoulder pads. You can see the helmet sort of details. As you mentioned in your video, going up close, you can see that the cloth texture and so on, the stitching, etc., is all on there. So that's one to look at. This next unit is basically one of the Machamoy phalanx units. So they've got this sort of padded armor,
Yeah,
these
cool.
padded quilted jackets. So that's all. You can see some of the stitching on that.
Yeah.
So these are basically a sort of low tier unit for the Ptolemaic faction. You can see some of the sort of the damage details on the shields. So that's one of the ones that's coming in. I think probably we've shown the batch, not the Bactrian cataphracts. This is a Seleucid cataphract, but just kind of some of the details. You can see the mask detail. This is one of Ace Snake's cataphract masks. So just some really nice stuff on there. And Grimbold produced the armor on that one.
Yeah.
So that's that one. What else have we got? Just coming up fairly shortly, we've got the. Just get this into the shading look. This is one of the Epacontistae, the Macedon. So it's one of the units that got missed off the original previews just because we hadn't quite finished it.
Okay,
Again,
cool.
a really nice bit of work from Ace Snake on modelling these Phrygian cats. So you can see this one's got basically a cowhide on it. So that's that one. So that's just a few of the models that are going to be coming in. And then just in terms of some of the textures, at the moment I'm working on some of the Kyrenian shields. So we've got things like this one, which is Zeus Ammon, which is found on some of the coins from Kyrene. This one is Apollos Carneus, again on some of the shields. Sorry, some of the coins from Kyrene. We've got some Silphium, which was the sort of medicinal plant from North Africa. So yeah, this is the shields have been a massive thing. So this is just showing you some of the these are some of the 100 and something different phalanx and sort of elite shield units. You can see all of those different layers in the preview here. So that's been a huge amount of work putting those together. And then obviously you've got the sort of line of thorax work that's happening through the modular system of bringing together different components, the pterygies, these bits, and you can see it's all sort of templated, etc. So just trying to, as I said, trying to streamline that production process, which basically means that some of the less experienced guys can produce really meaningful work. Refract, who's the guy who's been doing most of the line of thorax works, didn't have any experience with graphic design at all. And basically what it's meant is he's been able to come in, learn a whole stack of stuff and produce, most of the line of thoraces for these Hellenistic factions over a pretty short space of time. So yeah, those are just some of the previews of some of the elements that are coming up.
We've been treated today, guys. Everyone in the chat, we've been treated today. So thank you very much for that. That's really appreciated.
Cool.
So, guys, I think we'll finally move on to some of the questions we have in the chat for the last 5 minutes. So Alan asks, so welcome to the stream, Alan. Thank you for joining us again. Nice to see you again, bro. Is there a hard code limit to how many factions you can have? Is one of the questions.
I think there is, and it's I think in the millions.
Oh wow. Okay. Well. Well, no problems with that one then.
Yeah, it's a very, very large number. I mean, obviously, you then get into potentially ridiculous end turn times if you go up much above sort of 200, probably.
Yeah.
So but yes, I don't think we're in any danger of hitting the hard-coded limit.
Yeah. So So Swag just put, just so you know, Swag put R.I.P. I'm not a modeler, which I'm assuming was in relation to how we write at the start. But yeah, there's one more question here from Alan as well. That's really interesting, and I believe that it's something you've talked about. So is there any So the question is, any possibility on custom settlements?
Yes, there is. In fact, we've already got some custom settlements that are coming in with this release.
Yep.
So Swagger has been porting quite a lot of stuff over from Roma Surrectum, fixing some of the pathfinding. He's done an amazing job with the what we put together for Roma Surrectum, which was a hill fort settlement, custom settlement for the barbarians, which was based on Maiden Castle back in the UK. So in the south of the UK, there's this amazing hill fort that I think Vespasian ended up conquering. So that was something that I built for Roma Surrectum 2. It's been ported, it's been massively improved by him, and he's fixed a lot of the pathfinding. And then there's custom settlements for quite a few of the major cities around the Greek, around the Hellenistic factions. So Pergamon, Athens, etc. have all got unique custom settlements. But yeah, again, it's sort of it's a work in progress. Those will be improved on hopefully in the future.
Awesome. That's really cool. I did see the is it Opidia, the custom settlement that's currently on the map at the minute on Andy's Take video, and it looked fantastic because those standard barbarian settlements just get a little bit stale after a while because they're so easy to take. That new design looked awesome. I really liked it.
Yeah, and much more kind of the look and feel of what those hill forts would have been like.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic. So last, well, not the last question, but a question nonetheless. How did the two modding teams come together? That's from Alan again. So thank you, Alan, for that question.
So yeah, even back in the days of the original game, there was quite a bit of interaction between us. We always had pretty friendly relations between the two modding teams. In fact, when I can't remember whether it was Rome 2. I think it was before Rome 2. I think it was possibly Medieval came out. We were both working on separate mods at that point. There was a little bit of a discussion as to whether we joined back then, probably in around about 2010, 2011. But then we looked at the amount of work that porting over to Medieval would be, and basically said no at that point. I got an invitation from AOR. He basically said, "Oh, Remastered is coming out. Are you interested in joining?" I said, "Well, yeah, I haven't got a lot of time," was my response. Haven't got much time. I can probably do a few faction icons or something, and that'll be about it. Yeah, here we are, sort of a year and a half later, and yeah, I kind of think, what would I have done if I'd known? This stuff is a little bit addictive. You start getting into producing, graphics and upping the game, and I think we do it for the love of, mostly actually about bringing history to life. I think for a lot of us, it's basically you look at all these ancient archaeological artifacts and you go, wow, bringing that stuff to life is really exciting. But yeah, it was very much an invitation from AOR to me, and he said, "Are you interested in joining?" I said, "Well, yeah, it sounds really fun."
Yeah. Oh, cool. Also, have you got time for one more question, or is that about it?
Good thing. Yeah.
So one more question is from Flying Pig. So thanks for joining us again, Flying Pig. Is there a way for the modders to add new battle animations?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the animations are they're just sequences of movements. So yes, we could potentially add new animations to the battles. There would be quite a lot of work involved. It's not something that I'm planning on doing personally, but if somebody started working on animations and produced some really good ones, we wouldn't we wouldn't be against including those.
Yeah, cool, awesome.
But personally, I'd love to see them actually.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see some really smooth and better animations than what we've got at the moment.
Oh, cool, awesome, fantastic. Any more questions, or you need to head off?
Yeah, I've got to head off because I've got a new artist who's joining the team that I need to do a sort of induction with.
Yeah, the grind never stops.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fantastic. Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Tony, for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. Really, yeah, really interesting answers to some of those questions. And I just want to thank you guys, the whole modding team, and you yourself for not only this interview, but for the fantastic mod that we currently have. It is absolutely stunning. It in my opinion, the best Total War mod going at the minute. Especially, I mean, easily the best one for the classic Total Wars, but fantastic. It's amazing, really, the amount you've done in this short period of time. It's crazy. But thank you very much, genuinely, from me and from everyone who likes the mod. It's brilliant.
Pleasure. Yeah, thank you for the interview.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. And